On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, the bottom line ahead for the sea services.
We owe it to them to make sure that they have everything they need to do their job and to do it safely and to come back home safely.
Former Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Mike Stevens, on FedGov Today in just a moment. First, though, a new tech and cyber leader at the Pentagon. Katie Arrington's performing the duties of the Chief Information Officer at the Department of Defense. You'll see her first media engagement on the job on FedGov Today TV, Sunday morning at 10:30 on ABC7 in Washington, and simulcast on the FedGov Today YouTube channel. If you missed the first run of the show, you can watch it on demand anytime at fedgovtoday.com and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. The Navy lists 4 main factors to improve to streamline shipbuilding. Brett Seidel, the acting Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Research, Development, and Acquisition, tells the Senate Armed Services Sea Power Subcommittee increased modernization, infrastructure investment, better workforce hiring and retention, and improved supply chain performance are the 4 critical factors. Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Mike Stevens, U.S. Navy retired, is the Chief Executive Officer of the Navy League of the United States. He's the 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. McPon, welcome. It's great to talk to you again. What are some of the biggest issues that you think the sea services, in particular the Navy, are facing right now, sir? Welcome.
Thanks, Francis, and thanks for having me on. It's good to see you. Just off the top of my head, I think there's 2 areas that really require some attention. Number one is the budget. We've got to get out of, we've been saying this for how many years, getting out of this continuing resolution. Everybody will tell you that it's hard to plan, it's hard to execute any kind of long-term strategy without a long-term commitment from the budget. So that would be number one. And in hand in glove with that is the maritime industrial base. This is a problem that it's massive, and there's a lot of people working on it, trying to put together a workforce and a supply chain that that would help the maritime industrial base accomplish its goals. I mean, the Center for Maritime Strategy just released a book called Return from the Ebb Tide. It's all about the United States commercial maritime enterprise writ large. And it talks all about these challenges that we have. And they're not just U.S. challenges, they're international challenges. A lot of them are the same. But it's really hard to envision ourselves getting to a 390 plus ship Navy and also having a robust commercial sector as this administration is really trying to work towards if we can't fix all these problems in the industrial maritime.
I see more activity toward the latter than the former. When you talk to leaders inside the sea services, what are they having to do? What are they telling you they're having to work around in order to be able to do what they need to do to meet mission in the conditions that exist right now, budget-wise?
I mean, they're doing what we've always done. I mean, I dealt with the same thing when I was in uniform. And, you hear that no one likes to hear this, but it's the do more with less because, the world has a vote. And as we know, there's a lot going on right now. And so our ability to pull back and do less simply isn't there. And so a lot of this stress and strain goes on the backs of your people. They're the ones that are having to take this shortfall in funding and turn it around and still yet accomplish all the things that our nation asks them. And I think almost to our own detriment, we've been able to do that for so long and do it so well that it's almost become an expected norm. Sailors, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, I'm speaking for sea services in particular. I know that the Army and the Air Force are probably in the same position, but we're not organizations that take failure lightly, and we're going to do everything that we possibly can to accomplish the mission, the goals that are asked of us. And as long as we can continue to do that, I'm not sure that we're going to, when I say we're, I'm talking about as a nation, going to recognize just how difficult this situation is. And we certainly don't want to not be able to do something at the most important time. Oftentimes you hear people talk about doing something up until the point where the failure is catastrophic. We don't want catastrophic failure because that wouldn't be good for anyone. And hopefully, our leaders on the Hill collectively recognize just how important it is. I know that we talk to a lot of them. Many of them do recognize that. But the ability to work across the aisle together to fund the Department of Defense at an adequate level that allows everybody to do their job and provides them with the tools that they need to do it.
I am looking forward, as I do every year, to coming to see Airspace. You're putting it on next week. And it really, the timing is incredible. This headline from Task and Purpose 2 weeks ago: Air Force shoots down Houthis drones launched at Navy Carrier Strike Group. 1 day ago, Task and Purpose: Pentagon orders second Navy carrier group to the Middle East. This is what's happening with the backdrop of the two issues that you laid out at the beginning of this conversation about the budget and the maritime industrial base. How do you expect to see the conversation about those two issues, about the cadence of mission delivery and so on, shaped through the conversations that are going to happen next week, Mike?
I look forward to these education panels that we hold at Sea Airspace. Many of our senior leaders and officials speaking to these issues. I think the first thing, Francis, you're going to hear from our leadership is just how remarkable and how impressed everyone has been with the performance of these crews. I mean, they're shooting down drones and missiles that are, these are live drones and live missiles that are coming at them at all hours of the day and night, in unexpected times. And up until this point, they've had remarkable success. We haven't had a warship, struck by enemy fire. We've been able to knock them down. There's been some close calls. I think we've read about some of those in the press. So you're going to hear a lot about the remarkable performance of these crews. You're going to hear about the remarkable technology that's been put on board these platforms. It's allowed them to do this, and then the quick turnaround of software and data and training that have helped them to adapt and overcome. But all of this requires resources, and those resources require funding. And so worst case scenario, let's just hope that something bad doesn't happen as a result of one of these platforms not having what they need. Now, I would say I can't imagine the strike group deploying without the ability to do its job. And that's one of the things that they have to make sure that they can do before they deploy. But we would hate for some kind of material, not discrepancy, but a material breakdown of a component that's reaching close to its service life, or we haven't been able to replace it because we don't have the spares. There's all kinds of scenarios. I don't want to speculate, but when I talk about sometimes things get attention because there's been a catastrophic failure, and I know I've been, unfortunately, when I say a part of that, I've been in organizations where we've had catastrophic failures and it's cost life, and we've had to learn the hard way and go back and fix those problems. We don't want those problems to be related to funding in some way. I'm not saying that I've heard anything, and I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I think anybody listening to this understands what I'm saying is, you don't want something bad to happen because we didn't have it resourced properly.
One thing that you and I have talked about a lot off the air as well as on the air in the past, Mike, is the very high value that you place on the enlisted sailor and now in the work that you're doing on the Marine and Guardsman as well. What's your sense of how all of these issues impact that person on an individual basis and impact the way that that person interacts with their colleagues and operates in delivering the mission to which she or he is assigned?
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable what they've been able to do over an extended period of time. You know, it's not a declared war, but it is certainly a combat environment. And I know firsthand the stress that you can be under when you're in that combat environment and you're in harm's way, 24/7. I'm not even sure that we know yet what the results or what sailors are feeling today. It might be something that manifests over time. When you're in the thick of it, when you're in the heat of it, when you're dealing with it every day, you're just laser focused on your mission, taking care of your shipmate. It's sometimes it's not days or months, sometimes it's years later that some of these things manifest, and the stress and the strain that you are under starts to take a toll on you later on in life. So I don't know right now. I mean, just imagine, it's dark of night, you're in your rack, you're coming off watch, and you know that the shipmate that's relieved you is going to be on watch and responsible along with the other shipmates for making sure that you wake up in the morning. That's not an easy night's sleep. You might close your eyes, but deep down inside, your mind and your body are still active. And you do that for an entire deployment, like many of these crews have done. And then you come back, and the next thing you know, you're back in what's called normal life. And then maybe you go out and do that a couple more times, because these crews that are back are going to be rotating back out there again if they haven't already. And then 3-4 years from now, all that stress, like as I mentioned, starts to manifest. So there's that, and we owe it to them. We owe it to them to make sure that they have everything they need to do their job and to do it safely and to come back home safely. And it's, sometimes it's surprising to me that, we can't work together, pass a budget to make sure that all of this happens. And I've spoken with members of Congress, as we do here at the Navy League, and many of them that I've spoken with feel exactly the same. The bureaucracy on the Hill is complex and complicated. And if it was easy, we would have already fixed all this. And we just hope that leadership can find a way to bring everybody together and get us a good, sound defense budget passed.
Mike, Sea Airspace is one of my favorite events every year. I'm always grateful for the invitations that you and your colleagues extend to me to be a part of it. I'm very privileged and excited to moderate a panel of some really distinguished Marine Corps generals on Tuesday afternoon next week, and I look forward to seeing you there and learning from you and learning from Jamie Fogo and all of the other folks that are there. It's going to be a terrific experience. I'm glad to be part of it, and I thank you for joining me today, Mike.
Thank you, Francis. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
You can read more about Sea Airspace on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The Department of Defense and civilian agencies are all in on Zero Trust as the defining construct for their cybersecurity postures. You'll learn how on Zero Trust In Depth, a half-hour FedGov Today TV special sponsored by Booz Allen. You'll meet leaders from the Defense Information Systems Agency, the State Department, the Government Accountability Office, and Booz Allen. Zero Trust In Depth is available anytime on demand at fedgovtoday.com and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. The Thrift Savings Plan celebrating a birthday. You'll learn about that on the next FedGov Today podcast. That's coming Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your shows. And you can listen to all of our podcasts on demand at fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. Thanks for listening.